Well, welcome to June, everyone. This will be our last consumer presentation until the first week of September. So before I forget, I'd like to wish everybody a wonderful summer. I hope you get a lot of R&R during the summer months. Don't work too hard. Uh, Famous last words. Anyways, I cannot take credit for the subject with regards to the slogan here. This slogan comes from our CEO and chief formulator, Dr. Gordon Chang, but I always thought this was a really good slogan that he came up with. So today we're going to be talking about intestinal health, and we're going to be looking at three products this morning. If you have any questions throughout this morning's presentation, please don't hesitate to write your questions out in the chat or the Q&A option that you have, and I will stop during the presentation. You do not need to wait till the end of the presentation to ask your questions. I will be sending everybody a link to the recording along with a copy of the presentation tomorrow, so please watch your inboxes for that information. All right, so let's get the show on the road, as I always say. So, what are some of the factors that affect our intestinal health, our gut health, and how we digest and absorb nutrients? Well, I put stress at the top because really stress uh, really leads to all kinds of potential problems in our system. It could be mental stress, it could be physical stress, it could be both. Of course, looking at that fight or flight response when we're looking at, are we constantly stressed out? I think we all experience a certain level of stress every day, some people more than others. And as our bodies go through that a process of releasing cortisol from the adrenals, and if it's chronic, if it's ongoing, then our bodies can become compromised and we can become very tired, lethargic, we can get sick, it can affect our digestion. Even though I say all the time that our systems, they do work independently, but they also cross over. So I always say it's like a game of dominoes. You press one of the domino pieces down and the rest fall down behind it. So our systems can affect each other, and a lot of it has to do with stress. We're going to be looking at the microbiome today, and we hear a lot about the microbiome, whether it's on the radio or you're watching TV, you're reading health articles. Our gut health is instrumental in how we're feeling, how our overall health is. I always say it's the hub of our health, or it's at the core of our health. So if you break down the word microbiome, micro means small, and biome is a community. Well, in this case, we're talking about a community of microbes, or we're talking about, bacteria. And we all have our all my bacteria is different than yours. So what you would find in my microbiome is different, and it depends on your age, how you've eaten your whole life, if you've traveled, if you've been on medications, even how we're born. Are we born through cesarean section or vaginally? So even that will make a difference in the type of bacteria that we pick up along the way. Other factors, food allergies, we hear a lot about those, toxins in the environment, toxins that are produced as the result of oxidation or stress. So that's why I always put stress at the top. All of the above and more can lead to inflammation of the intestines. And we all know there's always going to be a certain level of inflammation occurring, but it's when it goes, if we don't deal with it, and if it gets worse and worse and worse, we all know that can lead us down the path to disease. Pathways to healing the GI tract are many and varied. What would be good for me may be different for somebody else, but we are different. And that's why nutraceuticals and the approach we're going to look at, it's all very strategic, just like anything else in life, really can make a big difference. So we have to try things. We're like guinea pigs, really. So the microbiome, I went over it very quickly, but basically it's a specific mix of microbes living in and on us. Not necessarily, people tend to think of our insides, which is very important, but it's the microbes that are living on us, on our skin as well. And we call everything together, inside and outside, human microbiome. And we all have a different mix, as I mentioned briefly. Our diet, how we came into the world, if we were breastfed or not, when we were introduced to solid foods, when we travel. And this is why we always suggest to take probiotics when you travel, especially when you're going to a different country, because there's different foods and, you know, there's different things that we're not used to eating, or even things in the environment that we're not used to. Even if we've taken antibiotics where we live and all of that exposure to toxins. So when we look at our microbiome, just like any other system, it's about minimizing inflammation and controlling it because we don't want to exacerbate what's already going on. So if you have a poor microbiome, for example, if the bad bacteria or flora are outnumbering the good, then that could again exacerbate an already inflamed situation. And then that leads to poor nutrient absorption. So you could be eating organic foods, you could be eating very high quality foods and taking very good quality supplements, but you're not thriving. You're just simply there and surviving, and you're not noticing really many changes in a positive way. Poor digestion, again, linked to malabsorption, problems with the immune system. It's really all about balance. And I always say, and when we talk about good and bad bacteria or flora, what that means is that the waste material that comes from good flora will not create or should not create problems in the system, or lead to disease. Whereas waste material that comes from the bad bacteria will basically proliferate and we will end up eventually getting sick. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. It's really it's a buildup, I guess you could say. So for those of you who joined me, we did this. Oh my goodness, it's been a while ago now. We talked about the link between the gut and the brain. So the gut doesn't only impact our digestive system and how our intestines, how everything is working there. It can also affect our immune system, how we breathe, our brain, because there's a two-way connection between the gut and our brain. So there's a lot of information that links our health to what's going on in our microbiome. So again, looking outside of the box and not, well, today we're really focusing more on intestinal health, but a large part of our immune system resides in our gastrointestinal tract. So there's another reason why keeping ourselves healthy with regards to our GI health is very important. So we're going to start with colon support to start. Basically looking at part of our gastrointestinal tract, looking at fiber, different types of fiber, soluble and insoluble fiber. And what I love about this product is it's not just about fiber, because we hear again, just like we hear about the microbiome, we're hearing all about how people don't get enough fiber. 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. I don't get 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. We try to do what's best for our bodies, but that's not always possible. And for people who are on the road all day, or depending on what you're doing for a living, that can also be an indication of not being, easily accessible to different foods and things. So it will be a lifestyle thing. So getting the fiber, soluble, insoluble, we need both in our system. So we've got fiber coming from psyllium. Not everybody can take psyllium. I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. This product is not going to be a good choice for everybody, but we do have options, and that's one of the great things I love about Omega Alpha is if a product like this doesn't work for you, or you have a reaction. For example, people with inflammatory bowel issues, or irritable bowel syndrome can't tolerate psyllium. So we do have psyllium free options, and we're going to look at that this morning too. So we've got psyllium, we've got apple fiber, we've got glucomannan. These have a multitude of, I guess you could say, functions or benefits associated with them. We're going to look at just different strains of probiotics in here as well. So you've got the added benefits. It's kind of like it's a very comprehensive approach to GI health. So it's outside of taking probiotics separately, you could also take this product with your probiotic. And so whether it's, we're looking at controlling inflammation and we're talking about being regular, eliminating. So for people who are constipated, this is usually a product that I would recommend. People who suffer with hemorrhoids, we're going to look at all of that when we get to our features and benefits slide. But it's all about getting soluble and insoluble fiber in our diet. So basically, soluble fiber breaks down in water. So if we want to deal with cholesterol issues, you would say take something that, has soluble fiber. If you're constipated, the insoluble fiber doesn't break down and it basically bulks up. And when we really need to drink more fluids, as that builds up, it actually pushes, or it's part of that peristaltic action to remove toxins from through our bowels when we have a bowel movement. So ultimately, for any of you who have dogs, I'm going to give an example here. I know this is a human webinar, but we're going to talk about dogs very briefly. If you've ever had a dog, you'll notice that after they eat, they usually need to go outside and have a bowel movement. That's how our systems should be operating, in a very functional, with a very functional colon. After we eat, we should be having a bowel movement. But many people, due to a variety of factors, stress, not getting enough liquid or water in their diet, not getting enough fiber in their diet, even when you start to take a product like this, we suggest drinking more water. Because if you don't, whether you're adding fiber from your diet or through a supplement like this, then you can become more constipated. So it's almost like a cement wall building up within your system. So in order to avoid that, we suggest drinking water. And I take this product and I like to take it, especially when I travel, because sometimes many people, when they travel, can become constipated. Um, the stress of travel, eating new foods, or it can have the opposite effect. They might experience diarrhea. And this product is good for both. So we're going to see that very shortly. Flaxseed actually acts as a soluble and an insoluble fiber, but this is ground up in this freeze-dried powder and really helps to promote that unique delivery system we have with our 4 strains of probiotics. The inulin comes from chicory root and it's considered a prebiotic. So whenever you're looking for a formula that has probiotics in it, we all need to look for a prebiotic as well. Why? Because it will feed and keep these probiotic strains alive as long as possible. We would not cease to live, or we would cease to live if we were not fed, of course. So that good bacteria needs to be fed. That inulin root is nourishment, or feeds our probiotic strains and keeps them alive longer. The guar gum is another form of I guess you could say fiber that helps to basically manage our blood sugar. With fiber, proteins, and fats all have a very low glycemic index. So this is great for people who are on any type of a weight management program, people who tend to eat too much at a meal. It can fill you up. Fiber does fill you up. If you drink water with it, that will help things move through as a cleansing solution. But it's all about kind of filling us up, especially for people who tend to eat more at meals. Marshmallow root is one of our mucilaginous herbs that help to protect the probiotic strains as they travel into the colon, because the end game for probiotic strains is to make it into our colon. And so we use flax and mucilaginous herbs like slippery elm and marshmallow root that also have the anti-inflammatory effects, because we have to keep in mind that we're always dealing with inflammation, always, with regards to any health issues, intestinal, immune, respiratory, whatever the case might be. So inflammation of the stomach, gastroenteritis, supporting the health of the intestinal lining. And when we support the intestinal lining, is important to keep to keep us from getting sick, to keep us from viruses and things like that entering the system, that mucosal immune system where a large percentage of our immune system is housed is very important to protect. Now we have a mucosal lining not only within our GI tract, but also with our kidneys, with our respiratory system. So with regards to intestinal health today, because we are looking at that, this slippery almond marshmallow root are very soothing herbs when we're dealing with inflammatory processes that do affect the intestinal system, like irritable bowel, gastritis, things like that. And anytime we see itis tacked on to any name, it means that there's inflammation. Even though technically there is inflammation surrounding all health issues, itis just means inflammation of the stomach or inflammation of the colon when we look at colitis and other types of health of diseases. Hesperidin helps in weight management, protects cells against damage caused by free radicals. Please keep in mind stress. And think about it. Most people, when they're stressed, a lot of people won't eat because they're stressed. Some people react to stress that way. Other people go the opposite way. It depends. Some people eat more when they're stressed. They eat a lot of things that aren't necessarily healthy as well, but that's a whole other situation. But stress, we have to always keep in mind that's right up there as number one. In traditional Chinese medicine, and this is what makes us unique as a company, not that we're putting together herbal or botanical types of supplements, it's because we're using Western herbs with traditional Chinese herbs, or we call it TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. And we've got a lot of research that supports the use of traditional Chinese herbs in our formulas. But in traditional Chinese medicine, it's used for dyspepsia or just feeling unwell, an upset stomach, constipation, diarrhea. And some people will use this product if they do get constipated and then they experience diarrhea. It's a balancing act. It's all about getting the right nutrients into the system as a balancing act. And then our 4 strains of probiotics, which, it's always a good idea to get a variety. I always say variety is the spice of life. Well, when it comes to probiotics, that's very true. Because as much as we have Lactobacillus acidophilus in here, which we all know is found in yogurt. So if you're eating yogurt, that's good. If you're getting a lot of fermented foods, that helps with improving intestinal health. What you're eating, kimchi, some people like to drink kombucha or kombucha, however you like to pronounce it. That also adds to a great intestinal health and better absorption or digestion and absorption. But the 4 different strains provide that much more support in our colon than just one single strain. So this is always something to keep in mind. Now, what happens if you are already taking a probiotic formula? Can you still take Healthy Colon Plus? Because there are probiotic strains in here. And the answer to that question is yes. Just like with anything else, if you take too much, you might find that you develop a looser stool. If that's the case, then you can just reduce how much you're taking. Please keep in mind when it comes to dosing, the dosages on the labels are all based on Health Canada, and they're a general guideline. But the one thing, if you don't take anything else from this webinar this morning, please know that when you start adding or consuming more fiber-rich foods in your diet or taking a supplement like this, please keep in mind that you do need to increase your water intake. And when I say liquids, I really mean water, herbal teas. I don't mean beer and wine and things like that. I just wanted to be clear because, sometimes you just don't know what's going on in people's minds. I just want to clarify that it's water, herbal teas, anything that will count towards, what I do basically is I like the powder. I mix it in with a little bit of juice and water mixed, and then I'll follow that up by taking a full glass of water right after. But I do continue to drink water throughout the day, and that's important because if you just take this product and you don't drink very much water, you could find yourself in a situation where you may be more constipated. So we do not want to frustrate you. For those of you who are already frustrated or know people who are frustrated, please keep in mind the takeaway from this morning's presentation is regardless of which supplement you're taking, it's always important to try to drink 6 to 8 glasses of water a day. I know some people roll their eyes, but it's like I can't even drink 3 or 4. Some people are having a difficult time. So there's ways of doing it. You can add, some people will add lemon to their water, or they'll add, some of these vitamin and mineral and rich liquids, but it's herbal teas are very common. So if you really want to support, and I find the majority of people that are coming on here, if not all, are all about healthy living or trying to improve their health. So they're willing to try. A lot of people will say, I don't like the taste of water. So this is where we add lemon, or we try herbal teas and things like that. So this product, again, different fibers, different strains of probiotics, anti-inflammatories that support intestinal health, gluten-free, sugar-free, vegan. So for people who are concerned about that, no, some people just don't care about that kind of stuff, but you will see on the top right-hand corner of the labels that it's vegan for people who are. So we usually find people are taking this product because they're constipated or they suffer with diarrhea. Some people, again, hemorrhoids. Again, getting that usually as a result of too much straining, but again, not enough fiber in the diet. So it's about lifestyle changes as well, not just about taking supplements like this and drinking more water. That will help, but we need to keep in mind that the diet is instrumental. High cholesterol in the blood, high blood pressure, irritable bowel. Now, please keep in mind, not everybody can take this product, so we do have other options, and we'll look at those this morning as well. Type 2 diabetes, weight management, because when you manage blood sugar, which is important, we need to do that all the time. Fiber is good, protein is good, polyunsaturated fats are good. When I talk about fats, let's talk about polyunsaturated fats because they're the ones that come from plant sources, from fish. It's not just about eating a lot of meat. It's about, looking at different sources too. And I'm not about making everybody vegetarian, but we need to look at sometimes where we're going to get these low glycemic index types of foods. So if you're like me, you take the powder. If you're not like me and you like to take capsules, then you would take 5 capsules twice a day. So that's one of the reasons I don't like take the capsules, because that's a lot of capsules for me. So I'd rather take a teaspoon and mix it in with my juice. I would suggest chugging it back or drinking it immediately, because the longer the probiotics are mixed in with any liquid, they degrade, they become less viable. So we want to make sure that we're consuming this, we're going to drink it right down, and we're not just going to let it sit there for a couple of hours while we do other things in the morning or at night. Maintaining adequate fluid intake, taking the product at least 2 to 3 hours away from medications. That's something we always recommend for our products regardless. So it's all about your preference and what you would like to take. But this is a great product. This is a targeted product for keeping your intestines healthy, having regular bowel movements. Probiotics, just like with fiber, probiotics are very important for keeping things copacetic or working well in the colon. And we want to introduce a variety of different strains into our system when we're looking at probiotics, thus the 8 different strains in the Ultra Probiotic Plus. We have a prebiotic, we have inulin in here, we've got fiber through the guar gum and the flaxseed, the apple fiber. These are just ways of protecting the probiotics and getting a larger percentage of them into our colon. Now, how do we know that this product works? Well, we like to simulate situations we have a laboratory in our office or in our building, and we test probiotics. So we have tested and looked at a fiber versus a non-fiber based probiotic. And with the fiber included in the probiotic, it protects the probiotic strains, so you have a higher rate at which these strains actually get into the colon. So it was about 81% um, success rate with a fiber, and you'll see the fiber here through the flax, the apple fiber, the guar gum, versus not using a fiber or something that's going to protect the probiotics. And that was about 20%. So that's quite low. So some people are out there buying products thinking, because the marketing of the product has been so wonderful, well, I'm going to try this product. And, they might find some benefit. I'm not saying it's not going to work, but the chances of you noticing the benefits of a probiotic from taking a supplement, always better to go with something that has fiber in it or something that's going to protect the probiotic strains from dying. Now, because it's a capsule, the capsule protects the powder inside. So that's always a good thing as well. And what I find is really nice about this product for those of you who travel a lot and you want to take probiotics with you so your system doesn't become compromised or you start to experience diarrhea or you're constipated, then we've got the acid resistant capsules. You don't need to refrigerate this product. So that's another thing which makes it wonderful to travel with. And so people like to take their probiotics with them because you might be trying new foods or you might be taking or eating something that just throws off your system because you're not used to eating it. You didn't grow up in that environment eating these foods, so it might affect your system. Again, throw your system out of kilter, so to speak. So to balance everything, we like to recommend the Ultra Probiotic Plus. You've got the 8 different strains. You've got about 10 billion colony forming units per capsule. And I know a lot of people are focusing on the billions of colony forming units, and that's always a good question to ask. But we should also be asking the question, okay, besides that, what is in the probiotic that's going to ensure that I'm going to get a large percentage of these probiotic strains into my colon? And that's where we're looking at the fiber component. Now, for people who do not tolerate psyllium, this would be a product that you could go to. Now, for those of you who don't have issues with psyllium and you're wondering if you can combine the Ultra Probiotic Plus with the Healthy Colon Plus because it has 4 strains in it, and some people think, well, that might be overdoing it. Do I really want to do that? The answer to that question is absolutely safe. What you can do is if you find it throws your system off too much, you can just not take as much of either of the products. So basically, looking at the unique delivery system, we've got the flax that really protects and basically encapsulate the probiotic cells, and then that protects the microorganisms from dying, because we know that when we think of our stomach acid, that's going to kill off. People are concerned how much of the product will be degraded as soon as we swallow the capsule, and then of course the stomach acid gets a chance at it. Well, we've got acid resistant capsules, which further promotes getting the probiotic strains into our colon, along with the fact that we have that unique delivery system with the fiber. That's very important. So we've got the prebiotic, the probiotics, and then we've got the unique delivery system with the fiber, which really altogether, along with the acid resistant capsules, really goes a long way in ensuring that we get a higher level or rate of the probiotics into our colon. And people say it works. I always say the proof is in the pudding. Is the product working for you? Are you throwing your money away? If you don't see benefit, well, if nothing changes, that means the probiotics aren't getting into your colon. But this product does work extremely well. And so we do normally recommend it for people who are constipated, or they go the opposite way with diarrhea, gas, inflammatory bowel issue. Again, it's all about controlling that inflammation. It's all about making sure we're getting that good flora or bacteria into our system, and that good bacteria is outnumbering the bad in our microbiome. That's really the simplistic way. As long as the good outnumber the bad, we're doing a good thing for our system. high cholesterol levels in the blood, skin issues, inflammation of our stomach, any inflammation with when we're looking at the gastrointestinal health. If we're taking antibiotics, it's now, this is where I like to kind of share some information on more recent research. Back in the day, and to this day, some people still do this, and it's completely up to you. When the more recent research on antibiotic use and taking probiotics, now we're seeing research showing that we can take probiotics the same day, just not at the same time that we're taking an antibiotic, because the antibiotics are necessary sometimes, and the antibiotics will kill the bad bacteria, but they'll also get rid of the good. So they don't go in there and just say, okay, we're just getting the bad guys today. They're also affecting the good flora. So in order to we need to restore and get good flora into our system. So you don't need to wait till your antibiotics are done to take a product like this. You can take them the same day, just not at the same time. So some people I recommend, you'll take it 4 or 5, maybe 6 hours away, but you can get that good flora back into the system sooner than later. But it's all up to the individual, of course. But the research is showing this now. People are not waiting until their antibiotics are done. Anybody who travels, if you're trying new foods, let's say you're going to India, or you're going to any country for that matter, where the food's different, the environment's different. A lot of people will travel with this, and they find, you don't have to refrigerate anything, which makes life a lot easier. It's a lot more practical for people who are on the go. So we suggest 1 to 2 capsules once a day, and you can take probiotics short term or long term, and we're going to look at that after we look at Parared. Antiparasitics kind of scare people. I'm going to be very upfront here. A lot of people kind of cringe when I start talking about Pararid, but if you really want to improve your health, and you want to support the health of your colon, Parared is our antiparasitic. It's a very gentle approach. We don't use any types of what we would call purging herbs in this formula. It's a very gentle formula for people who have never tried or used an antiparasitic. You might have given a dewormer to your horse or to your dog or your cat, but maybe you've never used an antiparasitic. So let's walk through this product, and I'm gonna make some suggestions at the end and how to potentially reduce potential side effects. And again, it's not about scaring people, it's just about educating you, so you know what could potentially happen when you start taking this formula. So it's a gentle approach to getting rid of intestinal parasites. Some people may not like what I have to say now, but we all have intestinal parasites. We are not squeaky clean inside. We all have bacteria. We all have, especially if you've eaten a lot of raw foods like sushi, or if you eat raw fruits and vegetables, if they haven't been cleaned properly. If you have pets and you like them, you let them lick your mouth. A lot of people think it's so cute when they see puppies licking little babies' faces and things like that. Or, when our pets lick our mouth, that's how parasites are transmitted. They're transferred through saliva. So it might be cute to some people, but it's very real in how parasites are transferred. And for those of you who like to garden, and this is the perfect time of year, a lot of people like to get their hands dirty. It's very therapeutic for them. They like to get their vegetable gardens going, or their flower gardens going. It's about knowing where this product can be of benefit if you travel to other countries. So this product is not going to target all parasites known to humankind. It's going to be effective against tapeworms, pinworms, ringworms, roundworms, hookworms, blood flukes, anything, for people who are losing weight. It could be an intestinal issue with regards to parasite infestation, because parasites will steal nutrients from our system. Whatever we're eating, they're basically robbing us of nutrients, especially if again, when there's a large number of parasites, we need to kind of diminish those numbers. And this is where the pararid comes in. There's a lot of health practitioners that believe that an overabundance of parasites in our system are the reason why many people are sick. And a lot of people tend to focus on the digestive system when we're looking at an antiparasitic. And because we're looking at that as a topic this morning, it is important. But if you have an overabundance of parasites in your system, they can travel through our bloodstream and they can affect our digestion, they can affect how we breathe, they can affect our immune system, they can even affect our brains. They can travel to different parts of the body. So again, hopefully everybody's eaten breakfast by now because, usually when I talk about this product, people are usually eating and, a lot of times people don't like to hear about these things. But at the end of the day, it's better that the parasites are out of our system. Now, you might start taking a product like Pararid and you don't notice, maybe segments of tapeworms coming out in your stool. There's a lot of people that don't even look at their stool. But if your stool is changing in color or consistency or both, that's an indication that something's going on internally. So, if you're already doing that, that's great. And if you're not, because it freaks you out, or, I know people who have said they've seen segments of tapeworms showing up in their stool. And this is important to know what to potentially expect because they're better outside of our system than inside of our system, wreaking havoc and stealing all of our nutrients. And, people are paying good money for good quality food, produce, or whatever you're consuming. And we want to make sure that you're digesting and absorbing appropriately. So Pararid, quite often, this is the product I recommend to take first if you are so inclined. So if you're gassy or bloated or experience diarrhea, constipation, that's the whole digestive part of it. Immune health is compromised. Again, people with pets, as I mentioned earlier, gardeners, people who travel, those who eat raw foods. These are the types of, if you're deworming your dog or your cat, you might want to take the Pararid while you're deworming your pets. Or if you have a horse, you're deworming a horse, you might want to try doing that at the same time. So you're on schedule. I always say fun for the whole family. So the recommended dose, so there's a specific protocol with this product that I highly urge you to stick with because parasites are cyclic and we look at eggs and when they're hatching, we suggest taking 4 capsules in the morning and 4 capsules in the evening on an empty stomach. What happens if you don't feel so great if you start with that amount? Or what happens if you don't want to start with that amount? You can start with 1 capsule in the morning and one in the evening if you want to. Or let's say you start with the suggested dose and you find you're getting headaches or you just feel really tired. And that can happen with this product. Then you can start with 1 or 2. You don't have to go with what's on the label. It's just a guideline. Please keep in mind. So you would take 4 capsules in the morning, 4 in the evening. This is the duration of use. This is what we recommend. Use it for 6 days. So 6 times 8 capsules, 48 capsules. You take a break of 7 days. Why? Well, because we're waiting for the second generation of eggs to hatch. Back to parasites being cyclic. And again, killing eggs is very difficult, even for medications. So it's a strategy. Again, back to strategy. We want to target the existing parasites with the first 6 days, take a week off, don't take the product for 7 days, and then for the next 6 day period, we take 4 capsules in the morning and 4 at night. And again, it's all about taking it as needed. So you'll be left, there's 100 capsules in the bottle, you'll be left with 4 capsules. Can you go longer than the suggested protocol? Yes, you can. So if you're noticing, let's say you're seeing segments of tapeworms or your stool, you're seeing things coming out in your stool, then you can continue taking the product. Just because you do not see, just because you do not see anything coming out in your stool doesn't mean the product isn't working. So when I took this product, I've taken this product a couple of times. For me personally, and it will differ with each of you, is that initially I felt a little bit tired, a little bit of a headache, but I was drinking, getting a lot of water, liquid into my system. So what you will notice sometimes you might notice that you might notice your stool is looser, but I didn't see anything coming out in my stool. And I know some people are thinking this is too much information to share, but maybe not. I just wanted to let you know because if you start to take it, I don't want you to be fearful. Some people will stay away. They will not touch this product with a 10-foot pole, but it's important because from a health perspective, if you're dealing with, low energy or digestive issues, intestinal issues, I always suggest starting with a product like this. Start with this, take increase your fiber intake, but we're going to look at that now. It's always a good place to start. Health practitioners usually always recommend starting with an antiparasitic. So now this is where you would use these products. I like to take the Healthy Colon Plus, from time to time. It's good for people who are constipated, and even if you're not constipated, it's a good way of keeping intestinal health healthy. It's a good way to target your intestinal health and making sure that you're getting enough fiber in your diet. Now, if you do choose to take Healthy Colon Plus, you would want to consume enough water. I also suggest if people are taking Para-Red, or liver flush, to take Healthy Colon Plus because it can reduce your chances of developing diarrhea or a looser stool. So the last thing we want is for people to develop diarrhea because that's just a whole other kettle of fish, so to speak. So increasing your fiber is really good with products like Para-Red or liver flush. And if you do want to use cleanse your entire body and include the flushes as well, I always suggest starting with Para-Red along with Healthy Colon Plus, again, to reduce your chances of developing a looser stool or diarrhea. Now, Healthy Colon Plus can be combined safely with the Ultra Probiotic Plus, or you can use one or the other. For example, if your system doesn't tolerate psyllium, you could go to Ultra Probiotic Plus and you're still supporting intestinal health. But they can be combined if you have, issues with, chronic constipation, diarrhea, but please keep in mind we need to increase our fluid intake here. Now, Ultra Probiotic Plus is the best choice for people who can't tolerate psyllium. So again, not everybody can take our Healthy Colon Plus, and for those individuals, you have another option. You've got our Ultra Probiotic Plus. And for those of you who would like to live your life on the edge, so to speak, the Para-Rid is a great way to start any cleansing program, and I highly recommend it, especially if you travel, if you have pets, if you garden, or if you consume a lot of raw foods. It doesn't necessarily have to be sushi. It could just be fresh fruits and vegetables. If they're not cleaned properly, we have to be concerned about the bacteria. Now, these products, you don't have to wait till there's something wrong to take them. They can be taken preventatively, and I like to educate on prevention always, but if I find most people call our toll-free number when there's a problem. And, we're here for any situation, whether it's short-term, long-term, but these products can be used in any of these situations. You can combine all of them together if you want to, but I do suggest if you do want to, use the Para-Rid, if you've never used an antiparasitic before, I would suggest Para-Rid with the Healthy Colon Plus again, because we want to avoid situations like diarrhea, etc. And always, whenever you're taking medications, just as a general rule, I suggest 2 to 3 hours away. We do have a toll-free number on all of our bottles and all of our literature. I find that an excellent resource. Or you can reach out to me directly because I think I've spoken with many, if not all of you before. You can reach out to me via email or call me anytime, or you can call the office. They usually, forward those calls to me, but we're here for you if you have any questions, especially when it comes to medications, because that's unknown territory for many people. And it's many people are taking medications, not just seniors. A lot of young people are taking medications. A lot of people in general are taking medication and they just want to be safe and they want to make sure that they're taking the products appropriately and safely. So it's a genuine concern, very valid. So if you do have any questions about, mixing with medications or other supplements, please let me know. And if I don't know the answer, I will speak with Dr. Chang, who is our CEO and Chief Formulator for all three product lines. So that brings me to the end of this morning's presentation. Does anybody have any questions, concerns? If you've used the products, you're more than welcome to share experiences with them, good or bad, because we do learn for people who are taking the products and experience things that maybe they didn't know that they were what was going to happen to them. We can provide solutions for that as well. So, any questions at all are welcome, whether it's today, whether it's tomorrow. And because today is our last consumer human wellness presentation. I do want to wish everybody a wonderful summer. Just because I won't be doing webinars, the consumer webinars in July and August, doesn't mean I'm not available for any questions that you have. So, if there are no questions or concerns, I'd like to wish everybody a wonderful summer. I am here throughout the summer months. I hope to see you in September, as the song always suggests. And I do thank you for your participation this morning. And again, I'm available throughout the summer months. So thank you for joining me thus far this year. And I look forward to talking to you again in September, if not sooner. Please watch your inboxes tomorrow for your coupons and your the copy of the presentation and a link to the recording. Thank you again for joining me this morning. It's always a privilege and a pleasure. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.